You're listening to Let's Talk Sports podcast with me, Lucia. NFL, NBA news, and more coming to you right now. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Let's Talk Sports podcast with me, Lucia. So the rundown for this week, it's last week's storylines, this week in sports history, a review of the NFL Draft Round 1, news, and then the playoffs round 2, the NBA playoffs round 2. So last week's major storylines. AJ Brown to the Eagles on a draft day trade, which has shocked everyone, including me. When I found out, I was like, oh my god, the Giants have to deal with this. But we've got some good corners that can help with that. But yeah, that was a huge trade. It's going to be really weird to see the Tennessee offense without him in there. AJ Brown was such a huge reason why the Tennessee Titans got to the number 1 seed in the AFC. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Tennessee offense works. They might make it more run heavy instead of throw. Instead of it be a run first offense instead of a pass first offense, which will be really interesting to see how Ryan Tannehill handles that. Hollywood Brown to the Cardinals, also on a massive draft day trade. That was apparently in the works for weeks. Hollywood Brown and Kyler Murray used to play together in college, so they're really good friends, and I think it's just trying to keep Kyler happy, to keep him at the Cardinals. And now on the NFL draft, it was so much fun. Like, all the insanity of it. It was so good. I loved every second of it. And it just goes to remind you why NFL is king. Like, we had NBA playoffs going on at the same time, and it really didn't matter. It would only matter, like, the only people that were watching it were the fans of the teams that were in it, and even some of those were choosing to turn into the NFL draft. It's incredible. Now, into some NBA stuff. The Nets get swept. Oh my god, I didn't see this one coming. I did not see this one coming. As I said before, I had Boston. I had Nets in 7. I thought this was going to go 7. I thought it was going to be a nice, entertaining series. But KD looked bad. Kyrie looked bad. The only person on the team that was even... there was a couple of people on the team that were trying. Was Blake Griffin and... oh my god, what's his name? I'm blanking on it. Brown. Jaylen Brown's... the Brown that's on the Nets. Yeah. It was really, really weird. The entire series. It looked like it looked like the Nets were done with this season. And now they're done, they're sitting at home. And I kind of feel like their fan base is like, we don't have to deal with this team anymore. Kind of how the Lakers fans felt. Kind of how I felt. I felt at the end of the season, thank God it's over, so I don't have to deal with this team anymore. But yeah. And the Celtics look like they're going to the finals. Dear God, no. Please, basketball gods, I don't care who you make champion, just please do not make it the Celtics. And again, these playoffs have been awesome. I think everything as a sports fan right now has just been so great. The NFL draft has just happened. If you look at the offseason, there was so many storylines. I was getting whiplash every 5 minutes. Then these playoffs have been awesome. And then the NBA playoffs have been awesome. And baseball's starting to get back. It's a good time to be a sports fan. Devin Booker has officially come back for Game 6, and it looks like it's going to be, and I'll get into this later, but looks like it's going to be a Suns Warriors Western Conference. I'll get into that later though. The Yankees have officially won 8 in a row, which is amazing. And the Mets have thrown a combined no-hitter, which Met fans will be happy about. This week in sports history, in 2000, Barry Bonds is the first MLB player to hit a home run into the San Francisco Bay as the San Francisco Giants beat the Mets 10-3. He hits 35 in there for the rest of his San Francisco career. That's awesome. That is awesome. So now, NFL Draft, Round 1. So we have, with the first overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Trayvon Walker from defensive end from Georgia. Then, like I predicted in my mock 2.0, Aiden Hutchinson was drafted by the Detroit Lions, defensive end from Michigan. The number 3rd overall pick for the Houston Texans was Derek Stingley Jr., defensive back, LSU. Then, as I predicted in one of my drafts, Sauce Gardner goes to the Jets for a cornerback. It's a cornerback from Cincinnati. And then, thank God we had a good draft, us Giants fans. We had a good draft. And it was an amazing draft. If we have competency, we had an A+ draft. The New York Giants select with the 5th overall pick, Kayvon Thibodeau, edge, Oregon. Then for the 6th pick, the Carolina Panthers select Ike Ikwanu, offensive line, NC State. Then the Giants select Evan Neal, offensive tackle, Alabama. They were the 2 people that I wanted and we got. For the 8th overall pick, the Atlanta Falcons select Drake London, wide receiver, USC, which is a head-scratching move. For the 9th overall pick, the Seattle Seahawks select Charles Cross, offensive tackle, Mississippi State. For the 10th overall pick, the New York Jets select Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, Ohio State. For the 11th overall pick, the Seattle Seahawks select Chris Olave, wide receiver, Ohio State. That was Washington Commanders traded with the New Orleans Saints. For the 12th overall pick, the Detroit Lions, who moved up in the draft for their 2nd overall pick with Minnesota, selected Jameson Williams, wide receiver, Alabama. With the 13th overall pick, the Philadelphia Eagles selected Jordan Davidson, defensive tackle, Georgia. So that was via Cleveland, via Houston, via Philly. With the 14th overall pick, the Baltimore Ravens select Kyle Hamilton, safety, Notre Dame. With the 15th overall pick, the Houston Texans, that was via Miami and Philly, selected Kenyon Green, offensive lineman, Texas A&M. With the 16th overall pick, the Washington Commanders select Jahan Dotson, wide receiver, Penn State. So that's via Indy, via Philly, via New Orleans to Washington. With the 17th overall pick, the Los Angeles Chargers select Zion Johnson, offensive lineman, Boston College. With the 18th overall pick, the Tennessee Titans select Treylon Burks, wide receiver from Arkansas. That was via New Orleans and Philly. With the 19th overall pick, the New Orleans Saints select Trevor Penning, offensive tackle, Northern Iowa. That was via Philly and via New Orleans. With the 20th overall pick, the Steelers select quarterback Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh, so he stays home. With the 21st overall pick, the Kansas City Chiefs select Trent McDuffie, cornerback, Washington State. That was via New England. With the 22nd overall pick, the Green Bay Packers select Quay Walker, linebacker, Georgia. That was via Las Vegas with the Davante Adams trade. With the 23rd overall pick, the Buffalo Bills select Keilar Elam, cornerback, from Florida. That was via Arizona and Baltimore and now Buffalo. With the 24th overall pick, the Dallas Cowboys select Tyler Smith, offensive tackle, Tulsa. With the 25th overall pick, the Baltimore Ravens select Tyler Linderbaum, center, from Iowa. That was via Buffalo. With the 26th overall pick, the New York Jets select Jermaine Johnson II, defensive end, Florida State. That was via Tennessee. With the 27th overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Devin Lloyd, linebacker, Utah. That was via Tampa Bay. With the 28th overall pick, the Green Bay Packers select Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle, Georgia. With the 29th overall pick, the New England Patriots select Cole Strange, guard, Tennessee, Chattanooga. That's via San Francisco, via Miami, via Kansas City, all the way to New England. That pick would travel to wide. Pick traveled forever. With the 30th overall pick, Kansas City selects George Kalafakis, edge, Purdue. With the 31st overall pick, the Cincinnati Bengals select Daxton Hill, safety, from Michigan. And with the 32nd overall pick, the Minnesota Vikings select Lewis Cine, safety from Georgia. That was via the Rams, via Detroit, and to Minnesota. I think that the draft, and I believe that the Giants had an amazing draft. I am so happy with it. The day two was sort of puzzling, but then looking into the players, I was like, oh, okay, so that's why we got them. Yeah. So yeah, I'm really liking it. I really like our draft. I really like Joe Shane. I like how he drafts. We've got competency. So yeah. Now in some news, the Chicago Bears released quarterback Nick Foles. So now he is a free agent. I wonder where he is going to sign. There was only one quarterback taken in the first round, and that was number 20th, Kenny Pickett. And he literally just moves his locker from the Pitt locker room to the Pittsburgh locker, to the Steelers locker room, because they share the same facility. Kadarius Toney is not going to get moved, which I'm happy about. We've got an insurance policy now in Wardell Robinson, but yeah, he's not going to get moved. I'm happy that we've got a lot of fast, twitchy wide receivers. The Suns were fined for violating the league's policy of not disclosing Devin Booker's status early enough. So yeah, that is an issue. That's an issue. Zion wants to sign the extension when and if offered, which would be the smartest move of his life, because he has not played for an entire year and he's consistently injured. And if he signs it, he'll be just sign on the dotted line, because then you get your money. And Trevor Bauer was suspended for 2 years for violating the MLB's domestic violence, sexual harassment, and child endangerment policy. So now in the NBA playoffs, round 2, we've got the Suns versus the Dallas Mavericks. I've got Suns in 6. Then for the GWS versus Memphis, I've got GWS in 6. Golden State Warriors. So GWS is a Australian football team here. So I keep on mixing those up. So we've got Golden State Warriors versus Memphis, and I've got Golden State in 6. Then in the East, I've got Miami versus Philadelphia. I've got Miami in 6. Then Milwaukee versus Boston. I have got Milwaukee in 7. Please, Milwaukee. So that is all for this week's episode of Let's Talk Sports Podcast with me, Lucia. So I'll catch you all next week. Bye.